haven't started thinking about trapping because of pure excitement, you ought to start thinking about it just for preparations. You know, trapping season's right around the corner, and you always have a ton of things on your list to do before that first day rolls around. So what I have is all my traps. I kind of knocked off all the mud and everything, and any major fixes that are a lot of hands-on work. I do that before I do any kind of cleaning or anything. So I bent any pans back into shape. I had one that a coyote really bent up. Bent the pans back into shape, bent the levers back in. So I've done that with all my traps, and you know, now I'm going to start cleaning them off, and then we'll get to the dyeing and waxing. I don't do any pan tension stuff until after the wax, because that wax will actually be a lubricant in there, and it'll change your pan tension once you wax your traps. So anyway, I'm gonna do like a kind of little time lapse on some of this pressure washing. Alright, that's it for the pressure washing. Alright, so last year I did a video on dyeing and waxing traps, and I used, for the dyeing process, I used the logwood powder that you buy from the store. This year I said that I was going to switch it up and do something a little more natural, so what I have here is just maple leaves that I picked off a tree that was blown over. I did some research on some more natural ways to dye traps, and maple leaves came up, and I have a ton of maples here, so that's why I'm using maple leaves. There's a number of different things you can use, including maple bark, oak leaves, oak bark, some other trees. I would have to imagine most trees and most leaves will produce a good dye. From my research, a lot of people said that the bark produces a darker dye versus the leaves. Honestly, for the purposes of dyeing a trap, I don't think it really matters, because all we're really trying to do is camouflage it in case it gets uncovered. We just don't want a shiny object out in the woods. So I think any kind of dye, whether it's jet black or gray or dye, will work just fine for what I'm looking for. So that's why I kind of chose to do it this way. It's a little bit easier than harvesting bark, and if you can't find a tree that was blown over recently, you might have to cut down a tree, which I don't think is necessary in this case. So a little bit of background behind how a leaf or a bark dyes something is that what's happening is that the leaves on a tree and the bark on a tree have tannin in them, and that tannin kind of breaks down and gets released when they're wet over time or whatever, and you can kind of understand how this happens, or get a visualization of what's going on when you think about leaves in a gutter. They're stuck in a gutter and they pile up, and when you pull them out, they are this black pile of just mush, and what that is the tannin kind of got leached out, and it stained pretty much everything. So that's what we're trying to do. We're going to speed it up by boiling them, and I have two different traps here that I'm going to use as examples for this video. One is relatively new. It's a year old, and it's got very light surface rust on it, so we're going to see how the dye takes on that. And this one I bought at a garage sale, and it's got substantial rust on it, and so this one should turn out really well. I just want to see how this one turns out, and give you guys a little bit of a comparison between if you're buying a new trap and you lightly rust them. Alright, so I have my leaves in this old feed bag. It was just from corn, but the reason I have them in here is so that I don't have much cleanup when I pull my traps out. There's not leaves and little bits of stuff clinging to the traps. There is a hole in there, so I'm going to have to tie this up. But we're going to put this in the water, let it sit for a little bit. Probably get the traps in right away, because it doesn't really hurt to have them in the water early. And then once the tannin starts to leach out, it should start dyeing the traps. And from what I've read, it only takes about, just about as long as the logwood dye does to take. So should be right around an hour, maybe a little less, and we should have some decently dyed traps. Alright, so these traps have been in here for about an hour and a half to an hour and 45 minutes, and the only reason I left them in for that long was because I put them in immediately after the water, or after I put the leaves in the water. So it took a little bit for the water to start getting dark, but you can see that the water is really dark now, and it's even started to stain this feed bag that I put the leaves in. So it's doing a pretty good job, and I think we're ready to pull these out. So we'll just pull one of them out. Get one of them out. There we go. So this one is the newer trap. It had a light surface rust on it, and it looks like that one dyed really well. I'm pretty happy with that. That's really dark. So I would say this is definitely a good way to dye your traps. It's more natural. It's free, and it really wasn't that hard to go out in the woods, find a tree that had fallen down, and collect some leaves off of it. So yeah, that's really, I'm impressed. That's really good. So I'll set this one over here to dry. And here's the other one. This is the older trap that had quite a bit of rust on it, and actually that one, I'm surprised, that one doesn't look like it held as much dye as the other one. So it kind of looks like it depends how much dye you, or how much rust you have on your trap for how much dye it takes. You definitely need a little bit of rust, because if you put a completely shiny trap in there, it won't take anything. But it looks like you really just want a minor amount of surface rust, because this one didn't take as well. I mean, it's still dark, but that's interesting. Either way, I think this did a pretty good job, and I'm happy with the results. So if you learned something from this, if you're gonna go ahead and use this, please like the video, and if you want to see more, subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching, and good luck out there.